Hello, everybody. And Revaluators. We're happy to be here again. As always, my name is Katrina. I'm the Director of Client Success here. And we have Ryan Dendeville with us, VP of Business Development. Thank you, as always, for joining us, Ryan. And we have a very special guest today. We have Beatty Carmichael. Thank you so much for joining us today, CEO of AgentDominator.com. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, we're super excited to have him. And I know you guys just dropped your podcast from the other day, and I was listening to that last night. Beatty, you are such a wonderful host. I feel like I have big shoes to fill after listening to your podcast the other day. And it was really nice to hear kind of the beginnings of the relationship here and how Agent Dominator and Revaluate are kind of going to pair together. But we really took a deep dive into Revaluate, and a lot of our customers already know kind of Ryan's story and the Revaluate story. So I'm really excited to hear more about Agent Dominator and what you guys do, and a little bit more about our collaboration here together. So Beatty, why don't you kick us off a little bit and just tell us a little bit more about yourself, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I grew up in the marketing world. I've been primarily a direct response and branding type marketer for, well, since professionally since 1997, with the focus of really helping independent sales agents generate business. And then in 2012, after working about 15 different industries, we narrowed our focus exclusively to real estate, focused on using postcard marketing to target sellers because that's our real focus is identifying sellers and generating sellers for our clients. And anything about marketing for real estate sellers is one of my passions, and I think I do pretty good at it too.
Awesome,
So
awesome. And how did Agent Dominator come about exactly in the mix of all of this?
yeah, so the short of the long story, if y'all for some of our agents who are out there that remember the Great Recession, the 2008 credit crunch,
Yep,
that then
yep.
moved into 2009. When that happened, we had thousands of customers, and they're all paying credit cards, and they're all low dollar customers. So we lost, I think in 2 or 3 months, we lost a third or half of our customer base because their credit cards are
Wow.
maxed. And these are people spending only
Mm-hmm.
like $60 a month with us. So we're targeting a with that particular customer base pretty low, and so we had to pivot, and we
Yeah.
started doing research, looking around where does our marketing prowess really fit, because it's a narrow fit where we're taking a professional and we're marketing them to the homeowner, to a consumer. And we looked at a lot of different industries,
Mm-hmm.
looked at real estate a little bit more closely. And the thing I found fascinating with real estate is everyone knew how to get buyer leads, but no one knew how to generate a seller, because
Right.
they were like this holy grail, but no one knew how to target. And I'm thinking, well, that's the easiest thing. I don't know how to get buyers, but I can definitely get sellers. So we started testing it. One of my friends is a professional speaker. His name is uh, and as soon as I try to recall it, I totally slip it. So I'll call him back later. But
On the spot.
yeah, it's on that spot type of thing. And he had some of his clients. He would always jet them around in his private jet to different places, and some of his clients were these real estate agents. So he introduced me to some of these agents up front. We started doing some testing, and after a few months, we started to hit the mother lode of getting responses in geographic farming to identify
Mm.
sellers. And so that was mid 2012. And then we officially launched. We launched under a different brand name, but Agent Dominator is kind of like the grown up version of what we launched with. And what was interesting, and I didn't think anything about this, and then after the fact, we realized, oh, that's actually quite amazing. We started in geographic farming, and we would have a number of clients that started with us in those first couple of years that earned $100,000 plus or minus within their first 12 months, starting a brand new geographic farm. I mean, it was not uncommon for us to have people who would we would start a farm and they would get a listing their first mailing or two. And then I start
Wow.
to hear about people doing geographic farming with postcards. It's like, you got to wait a year before you get your first listing. Go, well, that's stupid. Why are you doing it that way? Okay. And what really happened is, when you do the same thing that you've always done, and you do the same thing that everyone always does, you're always going to get the same result. But if you just
Hmm.
step out of the box and you say, well, why are you doing it that way? Why don't you do something a little bit more effectively or more efficiently? And you bring in, what we did is we brought in what we were doing in other industries, targeting the same person, and we started identifying, here's what you do. In fact, in the you'll be in, some of your listeners might be interested in this. In the first year and a half, 2 years, probably year and a half, maybe 1 year, somewhere in that time frame, we did 21 split marketing tests, and trying to identify what are the ingredients that causes the homeowner who's thinking about selling to more likely respond. Out of those 21 split marketing tests, and this was on over like 2 million postcards. Okay. So it was a substantial amount of testing. And we came up with the top 5 things that actually make the biggest impression. And get this, 3 of those things produced an 800% increase in results over the control group or more. 3 out of those 21 different things. And when I look at what agents are doing today, a lot of times, and this is just my little aside, we'll have agents, like I was working with one agent, and he's with this large, I won't name the broker, but they have a marketing department, and they wanted to help design the postcards. And they said, we want you to use this approach. And the approach that they're using, we'd already tested multiple times, and it kills results by 850%. It's just a simple concept of using reverse print versus regular print. So we started to do this type of
Mm.
stuff within our marketing with Agent Dominator, and
Hmm.
start with testing first what works. Then you go out and you push it, and you continue to monitor results, and continue to test, and continue to tweak. That was back in 2012 when we started. Today,
Wow.
I think we've probably gone through over uh, probably 150 different things that we're testing, monitoring, tweaking, and and so that's probably the longer version of the short story of how we got here.
Beatty, what was, I think you shared this with me in one of our previous conversations, but what was the one thing that stood head and shoulders above all the other follow up or conversion techniques, like the one
Yeah,
that got the best results out of all of those?
yeah. So let me lay the backstory so the answer makes sense. So when we first started, the only thing we were doing is we were sending out postcards using. Let me see if I've got a. I don't know if I've got an example. Yeah, this is kind of this in the postcard, but this is an example. So we're sending out a postcard, and it has a call to action. It has a direct response offer, and scan the code to learn more. And the key with doing a direct response offer is you have kind of a simple formula to grab their attention and get them to respond. And what we were doing is testing what are the responses that will drive a seller to respond, but no one else. So you don't have any false positive type of leads. And then when we got those results in for our clients, then we would teach our clients, how to start following up with it. And we had kind of a good approach. But then after we let these leads age for about a year, we went back and we researched every single lead that came through. Actually looked each one up in either Zillow or Realtor.com to see which ones actually came on the market, right? Okay, and then when we looked them up, we looked up and saw who listed it. And what our goal was how accurate were we in identifying those sellers, but more importantly, how successful were our clients in getting the listing that we found. Okay, that was the key. And as Ryan and I were doing our interview, that you'll see if y'all want to go to our podcast channel, it's Get Sellers Calling You. But one of the things that we talked about is when we did this analysis, we found that you could put our clients into 2 categories: those that got about 1 out of 10 listings that we found, and those that got right about 9 or 10 out of 10 listings that we found. In other words, 8 to 10 times more listings, percentage wise. And so I started making
Wow.
phone calls. because this is market research, right? You test, you analyze, you
Yep.
determine what happens. So I start calling up sampling of the customers that only got 1 out of 10. I said, what are you doing on your follow-up? Say, well, we're following the practice that you said. We create this little package that we send out. We take a gift. We do some additional follow-ups. I said, well, did you go knock on the door or meet them? No, we never did. Then I called the other guys and said, what are you doing in your follow-up? They're doing the identical thing with one exception. They're actually going and meeting them face to face. They're knocking on the door. If they don't answer, they come back
Mm,
again and keep knocking. And that was the only delimiting
difference.
only difference, delineating difference between the two groups.
Wow.
And if you think about this, for those who you're getting me excited, you can tell I love this stuff. So if you read the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, uh, in chapters 2 and 3, Gary makes this admission. He says, we were looking for what type of leads are the most effective leads to target. And so after surveying thousands of agents and calibrating and tallying up all the data, he said, we came to the conclusion there are only two types of leads, either those that you met or those that you haven't met. And those that you met, we've
Yep.
been able to quantify as an 8 to 10 times higher response rate. And that's all that was happening with our clients. Those that were getting 9 and 10 out of every 10 listings that we identified, it was simply because they met them in person. Once you meet them in person, what happens is you go from being a stranger to being someone that you know and like, and
Yep.
homeowners sell with agents that they know and like. That's it. That was
Yep.
it.
Wow. That's a magical story. I see, and I also love. I know that's not the point, but I love the market analysis and the pivoting, and that's so important to be able to take a step back and look at what you're doing from the outside and be able to pivot that. That market research can be applied to anything, right? To any industry, to anybody running their own business, being able to take a step back and go, okay, what we're doing is great, but
But exactly.
what's the next step? Yeah,
When I grew up in business back, a couple of decades ago, you had to reinvent yourself every 5 to 7 years to stay relevant.
yeah,
Then,
yep,
as of about 10 years ago, you had to reinvent yourself, every 4 or 5 years. Today, it's probably every couple of years or less because of the speed of change, because of what's happening in the consumer mindset. What's interesting, we still think the same, but our competition is different. And so whenever you reinvent yourself, and it's not really, when I say reinvent, it's not you have to totally redo what you do, but you got to go in and tweak everything, reanalyze everything, what's working, what's not, jettison those things that don't work, and focus on improving the things that do. Otherwise, you get lost. And that's what I was doing, calling those agents, and as we constantly look at stuff.
to pivot a little bit back into our partnership, that kind of oh, Ryan, I can't hear you.
I muted myself. That's why. I was
Oh,
going
there
to say
you go. Try
real
again.
quick real
Read
quick
my
before you
lips.
go there. I was going to say, what I love about the way you put that, Beatty, is, Agent Dominator's core function is what lots of people consider an older school technique, right? Like delivering physical mailers
Mm,
to the
mhm.
mailbox, but not reinventing the wheel, so to speak, but just refining the wheel and giving it a tune up. And I say this to people all the time,
Yeah.
like at Revaluate, we're not trying to reinvent anybody's wheel either. Like whatever their comfort zone is, whatever they would normally do, stick with what you're good at, but just do it better and do it with the right people at the right time. And so you're saying, changing the
Mm,
message, researching which messages work, which, deliverability, cadences, all the stuff that you like, that's your core function. That direct mail works. It's just a matter of making sure that you're delivering the right message at the right time to the right people so that you're getting the results you're looking for. And
Yeah.
that's why when we first started talking, I got so excited too, because it's another layer of insight, another capability of pairing these things that both work on their own, but can
mm,
work even better when they're put together.
Yeah, and I'd like to, if I can educate your group real quickly, because everyone thinks, they say, well,
yes.
postcard works or it doesn't work. Online ads work or they don't work. All that
Sure.
is you got the message wrong. It's the message that works. And it doesn't matter how you deliver the message. The paper ad, the email, the postcard, all those are delivery vehicles to deliver the message. And what you have to do is you have to understand what is the message that resonates with that person you're trying to get a response from. In this case, the homeowner who's thinking about selling. Or the homeowner has no interest in selling right now, but maybe in 6 months or 12 months, things are changed enough and now they're thinking about selling. What is that message? All the postcard is a vehicle to deliver the message. And if you got the right message, then all you have to do is deliver it. What we love about postcards is it's direct. Um, and interesting statistics is if you look at the shelf life of a piece of hard mail, it averages 17 days. The shelf life of a pay-per-click ad is a couple of seconds. Okay, so is how much impression do you want to make with that person, and what's it worth? And that's why with getting sellers, and this is why Ryan, and just so the people who when I heard what you guys were doing with Revaluate, it's like, oh, fantastic! Finally, someone understands how to target. And I sought you guys out for the express purposes. Once you know who you're targeting, getting the right message to them is easy. The hard part
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is you got 1,000 home farm and only 50 of those people are selling every year. So you're wasting 950 mail pieces over and over and over and over and over again, which is expensive just to
Yep.
find the 50. If you can narrow that down to who that 50 is, maybe expand it to 200 and hit that 200, then your cost goes down, your results go up, and it's a match made in heaven. That's what I really got excited with you guys on.
Uh, you really discussed what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to hit on was how this, kind of partnership came together. You talked about that you kind of seeked out Ryan. How did you guys find each other? How did you find Ryan and the noise of all the other things that are out there?
I think it was one of our clients made a comment about
Cool.
Revaluate and about them doing some sort of targeting or data analytics. They weren't really sure. It came through one of my customer service or one of my sales reps, or um, no, I remember it was through a guy named Tom. And Tom, if you're on this, thank you. But it came actually through a loan officer who was looking to use us and to start promote us as a benefit to agents. And he mentioned Revaluate. And
Mm,
this guy has done all kinds of research and he was researching us too. So I then reached out to you guys because we've been looking for some place that we can either use as a tool or send our clients to use as a tool to take that
mhm,
large database that becomes too expensive to market to by postcards only and narrow it down. Because and it was really funny, if I can tell a story. I was speaking to Ian, which is one of your sales reps, and
yep.
he was telling me that y'all had been in conversation a while back with a very large postcard printing company that, if I were to mention the name, people would recognize. And the talks fell down for one purpose. They did not want to lose their mailing volume. Because think about it. If I'm mailing to
Mhm,
1,000 homes and now I use Revaluate, I can narrow that down to a much smaller group. Well, if you make your money
mhm.
selling postcards, then you look at that and say, well, I'm
Yep.
losing money. We look at it a totally different route. We're not, we make money selling postcards. Very premium, very high performance postcards. We give money back guarantees on the results. But what happens is most people can't afford it well. But if we can narrow that target down so that what they're targeting is driving results, then we've got a long-term customer. And with those results, they expand their market space and their list, and we grow with them. So one of the things I learned in business many years back is what's best for the customer is always best for us. And that was just the opposite philosophy of the other company. What's best for them first is what they were looking at. I was looking at what's best for the customer and how can we drive more results. And that's why I got so excited when I started talking with Ian and then with Ryan on what you guys do and how it works, because I know enough about data and how you compile data to know that what you're doing, I didn't even need the data, the stats that the 19.5% third party or 40% first party conversion rates. I saw right off the bat what you guys were doing and said, that works. And you marry that with our ability to target them. Now we've got something for our clients that could be really great. So that's how it came out.
I love it. I love it. We're making magic here. I love it.
Trying to.
Ian, why don't you, or Ryan, why don't you touch on just a little bit about, getting to know Agent Dominator and what they're going to bring to our table from your perspective?
Yeah. Well, like Beatty said, Ian connected him and I to have a conversation. Ironically, Beatty and I had shared a physical space at one point many years ago when I was with a previous employer we had mutual friends, and we didn't actually meet, but we like two ships passing in the night, and we got to chat about that when we first connected. But one of the first questions that we always get when we're helping people to kind of strategize and figure out their implementation strategy is, great, but what do I say, or what do I send?
Mm-hmm.
What's the marketing? And we don't, as an organization, provide marketing collateral so that our clients don't end up tripping over each other, sending out the same items or whatever. So it always is a value. First, it's always a value to hear anybody out who has an implementation and make sure that as many people as possible are familiar with Revaluate data and how it works. But when Beatty and I started talking about his analytical mind and the way that they do their delivery, there were some really cool key components that were different than some of the other places that I've spoken to in the past, other vendors, partners, whatever. One of the things that really I remember struck a chord was he and I'm going to butcher it for you, Beatty, but the choosing sections of the database and overlaying so that everybody gets something at some point in time, and people who are in this middle group get the most communication because they're the ones who are shown. So when we overlaid it with Revaluate, it was like, okay, very likely movers and then a portion of engaged movers, and swapping out the portion of the engaged movers with each section so that you get a wider reach, but you're not over indulgent with people who aren't going to always be receptive as quickly. And like I said, I butchered that. He's way better at communicating that message, but it just really sounded so cool to me because, it highlights two things. Number one, focusing the majority of your time, energy, and resources on the right people, but also we all should know in marketing, there's no such thing as a completely ignore. So diversifying so that you get touches with everybody, but you're not over communicating with people who don't need that, but making sure that they're still getting some level of that and spreading it around so that you get the maximum penetration in that market. They call themselves he calls it Agent Dominator for a reason. I think that yes. I really like the way that they really strategize, and it's not just this like every month these people get a postcard and it takes 2 years, to your point, to get results, but by paying attention and tweaking and making sure the message and the moment are right, it's some good stuff they got going on.
If the stars align and this goes off as amazing as it sounds like it's going to, I'm really excited about this. Where do you guys see the future of this going? And you guys, either of you can kind of take the lead on this.
Well, I'll tell you how. So we love what you guys do enough that we're incorporating it into our sales pitch for our clients. So what Ryan is talking about is what we call smart targeting. Smart targeting is where you take a large list and you narrow it down to that group that is most likely to sell. And in your terminology, is the likely movers, roughly about 5%-ish, and it's the engaged movers, roughly about 25 to 35%-ish. And what we try to do is we focus, so our system is already set up to focus on a 40% of the most likely. And that 40% gets hit all the time, and the remaining 60% gets hit half the time. So what you're able to do is you're able to do about three things, especially as it relates to with your team, is you can take those that are likely movers and hit them all the time and really nurture them. Those that are not yet likely movers, but they're engaged, they're moving that direction. So you can start to really nurture them because at a $10,000 or $15,000 commission, you can afford to invest a lot to get that sale. This is one of the things that we came up with too, is when you look at that likely mover, likely mover, where your marketplace has given you a 40% success rate in that category. That's a 40% turnover rate, where you have no dominant agent trying to get that business. I mean, that's like shooting peas, shooting fish in a pond, okay, or in a
Mhm.
barrel. It's just, and then so you do that with that group, and then the engaged movers, and you're able to now target not only those sales for today, but nurture those sales that are going to come in over the next 6 to 18 months for you, and raise them up like you're raising up kids, okay? And then those outlying groups, that 60%, the remaining 60%, is those people that they're going to move sometime. Sometimes it's out of the norm when they have to move. And as long as you're present, you're likely to pick up at least something from there. So where I see this going is, if things are work as I think they could, I would love to see where, we're two businesses. We're not tied together. Okay, we're not. Um, I don't sell their services to make money, and you come over to me, and we're paying them a whole bunch of commissions. Maybe we are. We haven't talked on that, but what I'm saying is, this is not motivated by trying to make money out of someone else's pocket. This
Right.
relationship, as I've seen it and I'm pursuing it, is motivated by what's best for the customer. What's best to
Mhm.
drive the most results for the real estate agent, because when the customer succeeds, then we succeed. And as long as we can do that, then I see this growing. I would love to be, an integral part with what you guys do with your agents, to take those who want to invest the extra money for a physical mailing, send it directly to those that are most likely to be selling now or selling in the future. By the way, we only focus on sellers. So if your list is buyers and they live in an apartment, don't use our postcards. You're going to waste money. But if they're homeowners, that's our niche, and I would love to see that grow, because I'm expecting that to happen with our client base, is as they start to use you guys and our results start to pinnacle even more for them, then that just means more business, more success, happier clients, and raving fans.
You just touched on it a little bit. You talked about, you're not really looking for renters. What can you talk a little bit about more about what your ideal client is, out of all of our customers,
Yeah.
so they can kind of think about a little bit. What is your ideal client?
Someone who wants sellers. Period. We don't focus on renters. Buyers agents. You know, uh, uh, it's different. We focus on the seller agent. Those who
Mhm.
so whether we do it commercial and niche and everything else, but in this case, just primary property owner. But that's who we focus on, because those are the people that are trying to make the decision, which agent do I choose? Because they know a lot of agents, but which one do they choose? And it's interesting, 80%, according to NAR statistics, 80% of sellers choose an agent they've never used before. That means 80% of the listings are up for
Mhm.
grabs. The question is, are you going to get there first? The two other stat is 2/3 of those agents, of those homeowners, choose the first agent that they interview. So how do you get your message
Yep.
in front of them to such a
First.
degree that they want to use you? And in marketing, there's this concept known as the outside perception versus inside reality. The outside perception of most homeowners is all agents are the same. They stick a sign in the yard, they're going to list me on the MLS, and they're just going to wait and let some other
Yeah.
buyer agent bring the buyer. And if that's the case, if that's what is actually true, then in their mind, it really doesn't matter which agent I choose, because I'm going to get the same result from any agent. But the inside
Sure.
reality, especially for the producers out there, the inside reality is you are different. When we look at our agents that we work with and we compare them to the average, just looking at list to sales ratio, days on market, and other things that they do, it is clear that your agent makes a huge impact in the results you get with the sale of your home. But most homeowners don't understand that. So if you can educate those homeowners to understand your outside perception, and that becomes your inside reality becomes their outside perception of you, then they would be a fool to choose anyone besides you to sell their home. And that's the ultimate goal of marketing, is to help them understand why to choose you over all these other agents that they have out there. Okay. And this is why I remember I was doing a call with a name slipped me. I forget this guy's name again. He's the number one team leader up in Minneapolis or someplace up there. And at the time I was talking to him, his team was doing 1,600 transactions a year. And we were talking about this farm that he was targeting for 6 months. He was concerned not getting many results. He's spending $10,000 a month in branding himself out, billboard, radio, and all these things. And I said, well, the simple answer of why they're not responding to you is you're not well branded. He said, oh no, I'm well branded. That's when he started telling me he's spending $10,000 a month. I said, well, how many listings came on the market in this 6 months? He said, probably about 200. I said, how many of those did you get? He said, a couple. So I said, why do you think only two people trusted you enough to ask you to sell their home? He said, I don't know. I said, would you like to know the answer? Because the answer is always simple. It's always the same answer. And on this call is his Cam, I think is her name, who was his assistant has been for 10 years. I said, imagine for a moment that every one of those homeowners who are thinking about selling understood your skill and expertise and your tenacity to drive the deal through like your assistant Cam. If all of those people understood you like Cam understands you, how many of those listings do you think you would have gotten? And Cam pipes up and said, all of them. And that's the reality, because if the seller understands your inside reality, game over. They will choose you every
Perception
time.
is reality.
Yeah, I
Yep.
remember. Can I tell one more story? I don't mean to dominate.
Yeah,
this,
go
but-
ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But just to share the impact of this, one of our early clients is a guy named Josh. He's a team, and at that time they're only doing about 300 transactions a year, and we were targeting this farm for the first year. Nothing really going on. This is when we're learning the ropes. Okay. And then the second, he came to me and said, hey, we need to change something because it's not producing what I thought it would. And I said, I agree. So we made one change. And the only change we did is we started to educate about Josh and the success he has with his clients and how well that success is. I think in the next 7 months, he picked up 8 listings. And by the 8th month, he was getting 2 come list me now phone calls every month, every week. Half of them were saying, Josh, my home is on the market. It's not selling. As soon as my contract is over, will you come sell my house? The other half were saying, can you come sell it right now? And what was interesting is they never met him, but they started to believe he was the best agent to do the job. Another guy named Roman down in Miami had the same thing, except he was targeting a enclosed environment. It was a gated community of $800,000 average sales price homes. And he emails me and said, I just picked up another listing. He said, I got to tell you this one. It was already on the market with one of her friends who lived in the neighborhood. They're both getting my mailings. And their friend, the real estate agent, they both came to the conclusion they thought I could do a better job than she could. So she gave me the listing. When you can convince,
that's good.
Right. When you can
Wow.
convince both the agent and the homeowner that your inside reality is better than theirs, then
Wow.
they'd be a fool to choose anyone else. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what marketing is. That's what, if you can
Yeah.
educate those homeowners why to choose you, then they choose you. That's what marketing's all about. Sorry, I get carried away.
That was an awesome story, though. It's always good when somebody's like,
Yeah.
you can do better than me.
No, that was amazing. I think that will really resonate with our audience, right? It's almost like that positive goodwill. Like you just have to keep on believing in yourself and putting it out there and knowing the right messages to the right person.
Yeah, let
We
me
talk about that, I feel like, every day.
and let me see if this makes sense. For those of you who are listening or watching this, and you're a strong producer and you do listing appointments, chances are you have a listing presentation. And you do a meeting and you flip through that presentation or slideshow, whatever it is, and you go through step by step why that homeowner should choose you. That is marketing. All you do is you take each of those steps out. You take one step, you put it on a postcard. Take another step, you put it on another postcard. And that's all marketing is. It's educating them each step of the way but there's a skill in doing it, but you educate them. And that's basically what I'm talking about. It's not rocket science. It's just that we never think about it because we go postcard, go online, pick a template, throw out a sale and send it there. And that works, but that's just the beginning of how do you really do it well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think our final question here, I'd love to just kind of a fun question, but related to everything we've been talking about. If you guys, a question for both of you, if you had a crystal ball, where do you predict the market is going to go here as we move into fall and the market's been shifting? Where do you guys think this is going to go? And I guess where does our partnership kind of help our clients no matter where the market goes? Whoever wants to kind of kick that off.
Ryan, why don't you go first?
You ask the loaded question at the end of the conversation.
That's right. Gotta stay for the good stuff.
Here's what I would say with regards to the market. There are an outrageous amount of people in this business who have not been in the business longer than the last 3 years. Real estate's such an interesting world where there are new people coming all the time, coming and going and coming and going. And so I saw a statistic the other day somewhere that they were interviewing brokerages, and it was like 70% of most of these brokerages had not, the agents had started since 2020.
Wow.
And so they'd never seen a market that wasn't just crazy hair on fire closing deals.
Normal.
And so when you see all of the headlines and all the news and they're like, oh my goodness, home listings are down the lowest they've been since 2019. All I can say is, yeah, well, the last 3 years were crazy. Like, we're going back to a pretty normal market for anybody who hasn't lived in this industry. So is it going to be tough for people who've been eaten high on the hog, so to speak? Absolutely. But the people who take it seriously and want to be in business are going to figure out that leveraging marketing, leveraging data, leveraging systems, and getting good at what you've been able to be mediocre at. There's still plenty of opportunity out there. Real estate's not going anywhere. The market's not sinking. Their houses aren't, people aren't getting foreclosed on left and right. It's just getting back to where you got to work a little bit at it, and it's going to be okay. Just dive into becoming a student of your craft and a student of the solutions and tools that are available to make you better. That's my personal thought on it.
Yeah, and mine is, as I talk to our clients, they're concerned, well, the market is slowing down, but it's still growing, but it's slowing down, but it's still growing. Days on market still a lot longer and a lot shorter than it used to be just 4 or 5 years ago. More offers, and so it's a matter of what's your perspective, what's your benchmark that you're comparing it against. We're still in a seller's market. I think we're probably going to be in a seller's market for a while. We're moving toward a balanced market. But the main thing that's going to happen, I think there is going to be a shakeout of a lot of agents because of poor discipline and get it now and don't work for it. And what's going to happen is, if you want to last, you're going to have to learn how to do it right and actually start working again, or start learning how to do it best. I was talking to a friend of mine on the same topic. Actually, it's on one of my podcasts, one of the recent ones. And I was asking him with the market shifts, because he's gone through every shift from the Jimmy Carter 15 and 16% APR days. Okay. And he said every single market shift, he's always made more money going into the shift than he made before the shift. And he skyrocketed his income coming out of the shift. And I said, how did you do it? He said, just keep focusing on the same thing. For him, I just keep focusing on listings. He said when he met me, which is just coming out of the Great Recession, he was carrying 65 listings. And now he carries 3 or 4 listings, making more money now than he did then. But what he was sharing is the mindset of, you'd simply look at what you need to cut, to survive where you want to be, and you just go out and get enough business to do that. And but it all goes back to best business practices, where I think, and this is the thing that I love. I was talking to a lady down in the Florida Keys, and she's in the second home market, and they don't operate like the primary home. Primary home, they're always going to be moving because there's always a need. Second home market, it's usually, take it or leave it. It's not, there's not a need. So when you have a need, people will always move. And the key is, this is where I love what you guys do. You can identify who those people are that are building up those needs, so you can narrow your focus. That's the whole thing about marketing. If you can narrow your list down to who you need to be focused on, then it doesn't matter what goes on in the market. You'll always have the seller or the buyer that you're looking for. So that's my thought on it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Before we leave, I'd like to share your information for the audience. If you're looking to get in touch with Agent Dominator or with Beatty, his website is right here on the screen. It's agentdominator.com. I'm also going to share his support email and his phone number, and the podcast that they've mentioned a few times has been shared in the group here below. Go ahead and check it out. There's lots of episodes available there. And this episode will be pinned in our Facebook group in our AMA. And if you'd like to join that, that link is also posted here for you below. So you can get in touch with all of us. You can kind of yell out into the sky and one of us will be there to answer your question or comment below. And we'd love to get in touch with you. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you both for joining us today. And we will see you guys here next time. We'll be back in the Facebook group next week, and we'll be back on AMA, and we're going to be talking a little bit about life event data. So make sure to tune in. We will see you there. Do you guys have any final words before we go today?
Just have a very blessed day and stick to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Anything else from you, Ryan?
Nope. See you next time.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.